I'm Tracy.
And I'm Parks.
And this is our renovation story. So when we started the renovation, the scope of work was everything, as there was nothing truly functional about the house other than it was standing up. Welcome to our home. We call this the 1043. We live here and also run a small business of renting out our property for photography, production, and small events.
We noticed this house really because we had lived just about a block and a half down the road. We had driven by it probably 100 times,
times.
At least. Saw a for sale sign in the yard one day. We pulled in, gave the number a call, and I think like the next day we were doing a walkthrough, right?
Off to the races. Once I got inside and I saw it, I was like, oh, no. We're buying this house. We're gonna buy this house.
I had very different feelings, but that's okay.
My full-time position is a mouthful. I do occupational support and advocacy for people who experience developmental disabilities and mental health diagnosis. It's a form of social work. That's still my full-time job. So this is what is kind of tucked into the evenings and weekends. 10 years ago, I had a series of catastrophic eye damage that left me temporarily legally blind and then was restored mostly. And as it became clear that my vision was probably going to be an ongoing struggle and eventually a disability, I was looking for a way to create a business that I would be able to run and be able to support myself should that ultimately be the case.
The house was in a complete dilapidation state at that point. The original woodworking was here, which was gorgeous, but there was no plumbing, there was no HVAC, there's no electrical. It was listed as having like 9 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms, and I don't know how you even fit that in here. Adair Park has a historic designation. It is a historically protected neighborhood. Based off the condition of the house, there were arguments that this house probably should not exist or should be torn down. However, because of the historic properties of the neighborhood, we couldn't just do that. Not that we would ever really want to, because...
Why would you tear down these casements?
Right, like the brick in this house is just too good. When we purchased it, it did not look like this at all.
It was pretty
rough.
horrifying. The good thing about Parks is he just believes in me.
That's true. I believe that she has a fantastic eye for design and for making something out of what I could see was nothing, which I do not personally have.
I saw the woodwork. I saw the things that old houses have that new houses can't. I like things to have a little history on them. I think old things are better made. So when we started the renovation, the scope of work was everything, as there was nothing truly functional about the house other than it was standing up. The house obviously has some really spectacular woodwork that is the only thing I saw when I first saw it. I could look past all of its indiscretions for the encasements, and thankfully most of them were in not perfect but restorable, which is pretty miraculous. When you're renovating a historic home, you're required to save and protect all of the historic content of the home. So drywall is not historic content, but the casements are. Original floors would be. It was very tricky keeping those pieces protected during the renovation.
We came in one day and all of our doors downstairs, which we had planned to remove, but someone had come in the middle of the night and taken all of the doors off of the hinges and just left the hinges on the walls. But they had removed all of the doors downstairs and stolen.
Salvage like that is worth a lot of money. One of the first things that you see when you walk in the house is the staircase. All of the balusters up the stairs are original to the house.
The balusters that go up these stairs are all hand-turned, handmade, that are no longer in production. As far as we know, these are one of a kind.
We think that this house is somewhere between the 1860s and the 1870s, but because there is no building permit on record anywhere, we don't know for certain. Either permits were destroyed in when Sherman burnt Atlanta, or it predates building permits. We just don't know which.
Over here is our living room. This is where most of our guests will congregate when they first arrive. As a B&B, we were fairly successful. We had quite a few guests there at the beginning.
It was really fun. I enjoyed having people, like having guests from 3 different countries at the same time. We had 3 suites at the time, so a bedroom with its own private bath. And we did that for a couple of years. When we first got here, the original wall coverings were some very wild wallpaper choices that represented, I'm guessing, a few different decisions. We put in a more contemporary mantle since the original one was gone, because trying to find one that was appropriate to the age of the home would have been falsification of history.
The floors here were not in the best shape. There was a big hole in the ground. You could see almost straight into the crawl space from here. So that was a lot of fun. We also had a pillar that we initially thought was going to be a load-bearing pillar that ended up just being hollow. It was purely decorative. Don't know when that was installed.
Or why.
Or why. But we removed that to open up the space a little bit more as well.
So now we are walking into our dining room, which was one of the rooms in the house that was in the best shape. The floors were in perfect condition. Somehow it survived all of it. And so really all we did in here is fresh paint, new walls and fresh paint. Obviously all of the casements are like the showstopper of what was in the house, but some of the other details are like these pocket doors, which were in the wall when we bought the house, so they were allowed to stay because we could prove that this is where they came from. And you can tell that these, the woodwork here is reflective of the same pattern on the staircase in the hallway. I don't know if you've heard, 2020 was sort of a bummer. But we were at the tail end of 2019. We had been getting some messages on Airbnb about doing production in the house. Sometimes producers, sometimes people who just wanted to do photo shoots, but that was sort of starting to pepper in. And in late 2019,
Yep.
Amazon booked a shoot for a new speaker they were launching for Christmas, and they were interviewing Rick Ross to endorse this speaker. And we booked that full day and made more money than we did in a month of weekends on Airbnb. There was no laundry. They brought lunch. They took out the trash. And I was like, we have to regroup. But you can't do both at the same time because, as you know, production is so involved. So we were trying to figure out how to jump off of the for sure money and onto the we hope so money when COVID rolled in and sort of said, hold my beer. So we spent all of lockdown making big design changes to make everything super photographable and a beautiful backdrop for what we do now.
In 2020, when the lockdown happened, Tracy decided that she was going to completely paint this room in the pattern that you see here. This is not wallpaper. This is hand paint that she spent, what, 140 hours that you took on
It
this?
took 140 hours. I saw a wallpaper that had a pattern similar to this, and I was like, I went to art school. I can do that. And I had a whole bunch of painter's tape delivered, and I taped the pattern. And then once the pattern was finished, I painted it and peeled the tape off. And this was the result.
So this is our kitchen. When we first got here, it was very different. On this wall behind us was presidential seal wallpaper of some kind. The walls were, on the other sides, were all painted bright yellow, and there were drop ceilings all around. The island was not here at that time. We installed the island. We also have taken where the sink is and moved it underneath the window. We installed these prefab cabinets.
One of the ways that we had to make this space work was we had to get a counter depth refrigerator because the distance between the island and this refrigerator front had to be a certain distance. And so we were able to find this counter depth on Facebook Marketplace, which saved us a heap of money and not having to reconfigure the entire plumbing and gas lines that we had initially installed already. I love the height of the ceiling, and being able to put a dark cabinet color, you really become aware of how high the ceilings are. I'm tired of the all white kitchens, so we obviously lean dark here. The joke is that our aesthetic is Beetlejuice chic.
The next stop on the tour, let's head to the bar. This definitely did not look like this before the renovation. Prior to the renovation, there was a small closet that was over here that we had taken out to make it more original to the home. The floors that are here are original to the house as well. This is what was underneath like 7 layers of linoleum, which is crazy. Took us about 3 days to remove completely because there were so many layers. I think that they said that they went through 4 or 5 different pads for their scraper.
Our floor guy was named Florin. That's true. And I remember like after day 1, he looked like he wanted me to tell him to quit, you know? And I was like, it's under there, I know it. So the bar is made from pocket doors that we found in the crawl space. At the time, there was no wall in the house that we could positively identify as their original home, so we could not prove that they were necessarily a part of the home. So the historic ordinance says that we were not allowed to put them back as it would be falsification of history. So we instead had our contractor cut them apart and turn them into the bar. So we left all of the hardware. The supports for the stone are actually the door pulls and the hanging hardware that you can see on either end. So this is our library. When we first bought the house, it was like every other room, a bedroom. It had a makeshift closet in this corner, but thankfully all of the window and door casements were relatively unscathed, which is pretty miraculous. We added the bookcases about a year after we moved in to obviously house my book problem.
So primarily we use this room now as just a relaxing end of the day kind of room where we'll put on some records, look through some books, and just kind of relax. Mm-hmm. So the new business of the 1043 being the production route has been going really well. We've learned quite a lot through that. We've got to be a part of some really cool, interesting shoots.
It's fun.
It is. It is a lot of fun. Am I surprised that this is working? No, not really. Because I do put all of my trust and all of my faith into Tracy and into what she is doing, I'm not surprised that it works. Is it something that I would have done myself? No. But I believe that if she thinks that this is going to work, then it's probably going to.
The thing I loved the most about the experience was I've always been someone who feels most at peace when I'm doing something with my hands and when I can physically make something better. And so that's very satisfying at this magnitude, obviously. I mean, it is certainly a very exhausting endeavor. It's not for the faint of heart. Sometimes I will have a moment where I look around and I'm like, we really did it.